Here's a bit of an overview of what we're going to cover today. So I always start with the role of AI. I want to make one thing really clear. This is absolutely leveraging AI to help us build this plan, but you can do all of these things without AI if that's your preference. So I've been doing this for a long time, been in uh, professional creative work since before Facebook was available for non-EDU email addresses. So social media has been on my mind for a really long time. And I've had to create plans over all of that time. And AI is pretty new to the scene, relative to social media. And so what we're going to do today is leverage AI for that. But these are all principles and practices and strategies that can be leveraged outside of that as well. So if you don't like using AI, totally fine. If you love using AI, totally fine. But just wanted to give you some context. I'm going to go briefly into how AI helps us through this process. And then we're going to go through really the bulk of this. It's 5 different pieces to building a sustainable social media strategy for your business. The first is discovering where your audience hangs out. No matter how great your message is, if the room is empty, it doesn't matter. So we want to know where your people are actually spending time. We want to learn the language that they're speaking. There's a language barrier that sometimes happens when we speak our language and they speak a different language. So knowing those differences is helpful. We want to know what problems they actually care about. If I told you all that you should buy a certain brand of truck and you say, well, I'm not in the market for a truck, there's going to be a miscommunication that's happening. And so we want to make sure we understand what they actually care about. And then we're going to build a plan that we can sustain. That last word there, sustain, is the key. And so all of this other information is going to help us build something that is sustainable. And then finally, it's helpful to be able to evaluate. And so I like to keep all of this stuff as simple as possible. I have gone through classes. I have deep dive studied how to win on social media. And there's an ecosystem of really complicated, heavy analytic, data-driven assessment, optimization stuff out there. And it's made social media not enjoyable for me. I want social media to be a catalyst for your business, but also something that you don't wake up every morning thinking, oh, I got to post again. I hate this so much. So that's really my mindset going into this. How do we keep this in an appropriate place in our business? And then at the end Q&A, we've talked a little bit about that. I want to make sure that there's space for any questions that come up. So we'll jump in. So contextually, for me, the way that I leverage AI in this is as a thought partner. So what that means is that AI is helping me be better at being me. So it's taking my ideas, it's taking the industry insights that I have, it's taking anything that I'm bringing to the table, and in some cases, it's helping me refine that. It's asking me challenging questions about it. In other instances, it's just doing massive data collection for me to do a quick search or things like that. That's the role that AI plays for me. I do not like asking the question to AI, so draft a great post for me. I've done this kind of as a joke in the past, write a viral video script for me. And there's just something generic about it. And what I have found is that as I've worked with creatives, so my specific focus is helping creatives make the jump to freelance. So when I work with creatives, they're passionate about something, they care about something, they believe in something. And I think that, every industry should have a person like this in it. There's something that's really driving them. AI doesn't care about that. And so we want to use AI as a thought partner, not as an originator. And so that's the role that it plays. So you're going to see a bunch of prompts as we go through this. I'm going to unpack what's happening in each of them. But I want to set that tone for you, because that's how I work with AI. It's something that helps me be better at being who I am and bringing my ideas to life. So in a prompt, there are 3 different portions that I found to be particularly helpful. You may, as you read some of these, you may think, well, this is kind of like working with a junior employee. Absolutely. The better you are at working with people, the better you can be in leveraging AI for your purposes. So I always like to give 3 things with every time I'm interacting with I use ChatGPT. So if I shift to saying ChatGPT instead of AI generically, that's why. Every time I interact, I give it context, I give it a clear request, and I give it instructions if appropriate. And so you'll see that throughout the prompts. I'll call it out as we're going, but I want to bring this to your attention as well in case you think, I don't know if I love the language of that prompt. That's great. You're welcome to refine it, to, revamp it, start from scratch. But these are the elements that tend to yield the best results. All right. Now social media. You're like, wait a minute. I thought this was social media, not AI. Yes, it is social media, I promise. So the first place that we're going to start by understanding where our audience is. So back in the old days, malls used to be the place where everybody shopped. If you needed to buy anything, you go to the mall. And if you've been to a mall lately, one, that's kind of surprising, but two, you'll notice that there aren't nearly as many people as there used to be in the mall. What's happening is people have changed where they spend their time. That matters a lot for us as a business because we need to find where our potential customers are spending their time. In the context of social media, you have a lot of options. You have Instagram, you have Facebook, you have some people spend a lot of time on WhatsApp, which is a little bit more private, but still kind of fits into that bill. You have YouTube, you have TikTok, you have Snapchat, which is still around, even though it doesn't get the headlines that it used to. There's all of these different platforms where people are spending their time. We need to understand where our audience is spending that time so that the messages that we craft will be living in the right place. Because again, posting amazing LinkedIn posts for people who aren't on LinkedIn, it's not going to gain you any traction. And that's really where sustainability comes in. If you're constantly banging your head against the wall thinking, why is nothing working? Oftentimes it helps to start here. Are you sending your message to the right audience or to the right location where your audience is? So this is how I structure it. I'm starting a business focused on helping creatives make the jump to freelance. So service offering there is whatever you do, copywriting for chefs, whatever it is that you do as your business. So I'm starting a business focusing on this service offering. I'd like your help building a strategy for my social media content. I'd like to start by finding the best social media platform for posting my content. Right now, I only want to focus on one platform. We're going to talk a little bit more about that in the sustainability side, but remember that one platform. Can you help me think through the pros and cons of different social media platforms for this audience and ask me questions to help find the best fit? So you'll notice here at the end, we're asking for questions to come back to us. What this prompt yields is a bunch of conversation. When I've done this myself, I get between 4 and 6 questions back from ChatGPT, and it says, okay, you asked for it. Let's start having this conversation. And the reason a conversation is helpful is because there is nuance in making this decision, and your ability to bring your expertise to the table is critical for success in it. So for me, working with creatives, wanting to make the jump to freelance, creatives and LinkedIn don't feel like the right platform off the top. Usually people will say, well, Instagram is a better platform for creatives. I would agree with that to an extent. Because I'm wanting to help them make the jump to freelance, there's an assumption that I'm making that there are a lot of creatives who are kind of stuck in a job, whether that be like a mega corporate job and they just don't get any creativity at all, or a job where they do some creativity, but they're really concerned about or focused on the business aspects of making the jump to freelance. So actually for me, LinkedIn makes a ton of sense because I'm trying to bring content to a platform that empowers and equips people to make this jump to freelance. So for me, even though ChatGPT said Instagram is where creatives live, in our conversation, it surfaced that LinkedIn is actually the best fit for the type of service that I'm offering. So this is where the conversation becomes very helpful. I've used this with clients as well. My client is starting a business focused on this service offering. And what it's helped me do is it's helped me then ask some really, really straightforward and direct questions to my client to say, okay, who exactly are you trying to serve? And so it's part of an audience discovery process that I do that is, it really, really clarifies for the business owner what it is they're trying to focus on and who they're trying to reach. So this is a great way for us to start discovering where is our audience and then focusing on that one thing. Again, I'm going to bring that up a bunch of times because that's counter to a lot of advice that we get, or at least the pressure we feel. We have to be everywhere. My recommendation, always start at one platform, dial it in, optimize it. And then if you find success, you can continue to expand. So there you go. That's the first of the 5 steps. Discover where your audience hangs out. You have to know where they're spending their time. And sometimes we know that. Sometimes we're in the community ourselves and we have a good pulse on where that actually is already happening, where people are gathering digitally, where they're spending their time online. I think it's a worthwhile exercise to go through, even if you feel like you have that really, really dialed in, because sometimes you discover something new. So it's worth running that in case, even if you feel like you have it dialed in. So the next 2 steps are actually part of the same prompt. Learn your audience's language and know what problems your audience cares about. The reason these are the same is because when people are talking about their problems, they're using their language. And so we can actually learn the language of the people that we're trying to reach by listening to them. I know it sounds crazy, right? Listen to people and you'll begin to understand them. But believe it or not, this is one of the steps I see a lot of people miss. We assume that we know an audience and we miss actually what they care about and how they talk about it. This is in the old days, a couple of years ago, I used to go around on Facebook, which is where my audience hangs out, a different audience, but this is where an audience hangs out. And I would go through Facebook groups and I would copy and paste certain posts that or questions people would ask, or even complaints. And I would learn the language that people were speaking when it came to being frustrated in their jobs. So this was kind of the predecessor to Jump to Freelance. It was the building up of frustration. So I'm learning how people are talking about being frustrated at work. So I would say certain things when I was frustrated at work, but it wasn't the same stuff that they were saying. They weren't feeling the same pain points that I was feeling. And so as we dig into language, as we dig into the actual problems, we begin discovering, I'm building the wrong service, or I'm building the wrong offer, or I'm talking about it in a way that's not relevant to this audience of people. So we really want to learn what they care about and how they're talking about it. So this is a 3-part prompt. These get really big when you add all of the context and requests and everything in there. So I'm breaking this one up so it's a little bit more, so it's visible on screen. But I'm building a coaching business to help creatives make the jump to freelance. I'm going to use that as my example because it's easy for me to default to. My target audience is creatives who are stuck dreaming about making the jump to freelance, but not actually doing, making the jump. I want to better understand what they're struggling with and how they talk about it. So I'm basically describing, this is a kind of a rich view of the business that I do, and also the group of people that I'm trying to have a conversation with. From there, I'm now asking for what some of these problems are. Give me a breakdown of what they say about their struggles in this area of their business. Why, it's a big one, why these struggles matter to them, and what questions they're asking about solving these problems. Something I found with just this portion is I assume people are saying, I want to make the jump to freelance. But what I have actually found in real life is people are struggling in their jobs. And so freelance is almost like a kind of a desperate cry for help to say, maybe if I did that, that would be better. But when I actually lean into this conversation for some, I actually had one person who was in my coaching group, and at the end of our time, they said to me, I think actually there's things that I can do to help myself last in my current role. Massive win for me in that I've helped them find a very clear next step in what they're doing. But that also revealed to me, I need to make sure that I'm asking the right questions, or I'm recognizing the questions that they're actually talking about and providing a service that actually helps them. It's not that people are independently wealthy and want to just choose freelance instead of a career, in an organization. Oftentimes it's because they've lost a job or some difficult situation has happened. Even for me, I call it a jump to freelance. It was kind of a push to freelance. Life circumstances put me in a position where I needed to build a business. So this research helps me reframe a little bit of the conversation. So instead of, really optimistic and positive things, it's, hey, if you find yourself in a difficult position, we can build a business. Let's talk about the foundations. And so this really helps us shift the way that we understand and hear the problems in our audience. And then from there, we recommend a specific place to go. Gather quotes and insights from platforms like Reddit, Quora, Facebook groups, and forums where my audience may hang out. If you know specific places you want to direct it, you're more than welcome to. It's a really helpful place, or a helpful kind of list of places to direct. And what I love about the results is it actually gives you the links. That's another thing we'll kind of mention briefly here. I'm going to show you the results on the next slide so you get a sense of what this looks like. And then finally, this is the instructions. Organize a client cheat sheet that I can use to connect with them more effectively. Use the categories above as headings. Under each one, write a short summary of what you found, followed by 8 to 12 direct quote-style bullet points that capture how real people describe their challenges and questions. This is just governing the output. You can change it to look like whatever you want, but this is what it reveals. And what's really compelling to me about this, I don't trust I don't trust the results that AI gives me if I'm asking a direct, like, fact-driven question. And so I always like to look at the links to make sure that I can then do my own due diligence and vet the caliber and the quality of the response. So one of the things that you'll see on this is, oh, here we go. You can't see my mouse. Great. So this little bubble right here, it says Reddit +9. If I click on that on the search results, what will happen is I will see the link, like it'll take me to the page where this information was gathered. So the real power of this is then me spending a little bit of time digging into some of the context around these responses. But here's what you'll find that's super interesting. Finding good clients. That's a real legitimate concern that a lot of people have about making the jump to freelance. The main struggle, so many cheap freelancers pretending to be pros, they lower the prices, so buyers think that's the normal rate. That's a really good question or concern to elevate. So now, as the content creator guy on the other side, I can say, how would I create content that can help address that problem? How can I teach freelancers to be able to talk meaningfully about money with their clients? And believe it or not, that's a talk that's coming up here in this series of content with Novo. But like, that's really helping me get information about the messaging that I share on social media. Because one of the things that we run into as a real hindrance with our own sustainability on social media is, what am I supposed to even post? Like, and this gives us such rich content to be able to post. It's on a platform that we know our audience is in, and it's answering questions we know that they care about, and we can learn some of the language to use in our own writing and our own communication based on what we see in these results. So those are the first 3 of our 5 steps. The last part here is this sustainability, and it's so important to prioritize this, because a plan that you can operate over the course of a year will give you better results than a way bigger plan that you operate for a month. Long term is the way that you need to think about success on social media. There's just so much content out there now that it's a long-term play. I think there's a myth that circles that we can just jump on social media and somehow go viral and have that be the transformative thing in our business. And I just want to tell you that that is not true. When I first started focusing on this creative freelance stuff with Jump to Freelance, it was January of this year. That's when I was very aggressive about making this, kind of formalizing offers and really kind of crystallizing a lot of my thinking around this transitional moment for businesses. I've been doing business before that, but this specific focus emerged then. So around February, I had a video on LinkedIn that went viral. And so when I say viral, it had over 1 million impressions, and it reached over 500,000 different members. At the time, the primary offering was a podcast that I have called The Jump Moment, talking about these stories of making the jump to freelance. 18 people downloaded the podcast from a video with over 1 million views. So this chase for virality isn't actually delivering for us what we think it would. And it's emotionally complex. On one hand, you think, wow, this content was received by so many people. It's really exciting. But then you look at the numbers and you say, oh, wow, nobody cares about what I'm doing. Maybe I should throw in the towel. And it throws you into this emotional roller coaster. And so sustainability is a really important thing for us to have in the beginning, because when my mindset is, now I'm going to post 2 times a week for the next 6 months, it doesn't actually really matter how things are doing in the moment because it's a long-term play. So that mindset really helps us as we jump into this sustainability side. So there's two components that I want to tackle when it comes to sustainability. I've mentioned one of them. What should I post? If you don't know what to post, it's going to be stressful and time consuming every single time you have to post. And it's going to be that language. I have to post. It's a checkbox. It's a to-do list item, and it's just not enjoyable anymore. And when the joy leaves what we're creating, that's evident. It shows up in the content, whether we intend it to or not. We drift cynical. Our takes start becoming negative. Can you believe AI is taking over the planet? As opposed to, AI helped me solve a problem today that let me serve customers better. I mean, it's a totally different outlook on the same scenario. So this helps us now, based on all the research that we've done so far, this gives us an unbelievable list of really rich content. I'd like to use this information to build out a social media plan for the one social network that I'm focusing on. For me, I'm focusing only on LinkedIn. I've dabbled other places. I've integrated YouTube into this a little bit, but primarily I'm focusing my energy on LinkedIn because of all of my research, and that's where we landed. Specifically, I'd like a few different content pillars to guide content creation. Within those pillars, I'd like to list 50 questions or topics related to each pillar that I can answer for social content. Do you need anything else from me to create this? I love that last little question there because it gives you a little bit of work to do. But what this yields is a massive list of questions based on the specific topics that you want to talk about from your vantage point as a business owner and toward their vantage point as your ideal audience. And so what this does is it makes content creation, so much easier. So much easier. And it's not some formula of a grid. It's not like pick this topic and then this, this emotion, or, I've seen a lot of those kind of grid structure types of things where you're mixing and matching. But I always care about user interface. Like, do I want to look at a spreadsheet? So I'm in full disclosure, I'm a creative. I cannot stand spreadsheets. Like that is not my love language. And so I struggle with those types of really like formulaic types of approaches. But instead I have questions. I'm thinking about leaving my job, but I'm scared. What do I do? Oh man, let's talk about it. Like that's a great question to have a conversation around. So these questions, the result of this prompt really gives me something rich that I can begin talking about. So that's the first part of sustainability. What should you post? This solves it. 100% answers the question for you. The next part of this is how can I sustain this? This is a little bit more about your input. What's the time that you have to contribute? I'm going to start talking about my service on my social platform. I'd love your help defining a clear goal, creating a strategy that is manageable for me to execute, and creating a content plan that supports my goal. I'd also like suggestions beyond content creation. This is a huge one that could contribute to success on the platform. Can you walk me through building this one step at a time? So what we're doing in this, we are saying a couple different things all at once. Creating a strategy that's manageable for me to execute. I love telling ChatGPT, hey, I'm only willing to give 2 days to this. That's it. I'm only going to post, 2 days a week, 3 days a week, whatever your tolerance or capacity level is, and then letting ChatGPT help you build a schedule related to that window of time or that amount of time that you can contribute. And so that's really, really important and valuable to be honest about. I'm a big fan of erring on the side of, I may be able to do a little bit more, but don't overextend yourself. Recognize that faithful pursuit of this over a prolonged period of time will win far more than just pushing really, really hard and posting 10 times a week for 2 weeks. So be honest about the sustainability portion of it and how much you're willing to contribute. Think about it in the context of the rest of your business, the rest of the things that you do. Like you have other tasks, right? Like I provide graphic design services to businesses or to churches or whatever, different organizations. If I don't have time to actually design, I'm going out of business no matter how successful my social media is. So think about it in light of that. This is one of your outreach mechanisms, one of your marketing strategies, whatever you want to call it. It needs to fit within a timeline that's reasonable for you to contribute to. That also informs the platform that you choose, by the way. For me, I chose LinkedIn partly because of the transitional moment that a creative wants to make the jump, but also because Instagram demands visual, like just visual content. And that's a lot more time consuming for me to create. So that was another practical and sustainability, how can I sustain this reason? The other thing that this prompt elicits is creating a clear goal. When we post without a goal, it's really tricky. We assume that something will happen, maybe, but we're not actually making intentional decisions to prompt that to happen or to guide that result. And so this getting clear on the goals is very, very helpful, because if you're posting to gain followers, it's different. Your approach is different than if you're posting to gain customers, and it's different if you're posting to try to go viral, and it's different if you're trying to meet friends. Like there's tons of reasons why you could be doing this. You may be looking for partners in your business. So I'm a graphic designer. Maybe I'm looking for other graphic designers to find community with them and to learn, talk shop. Maybe I'm looking for a coach. Maybe I want somebody to help me grow in my business. Maybe I'm looking for, we all have different reasons as to why we're going to social media. And so when you establish clear goals, then you can figure out what content, and really ChatGPT or whatever tool you use will help build a structure that helps you move that direction. So those are the kinds of things that this prompt will elicit, and it'll happen through the context of conversation. One other thing I want to call out here, I'd also like suggestions beyond content creation that can contribute to success. So speaking of LinkedIn specifically, this is not true of all the platforms, or if it is, I don't know, because I've done all of my research to focus on one platform, which is LinkedIn. On LinkedIn, if you message people, if you reach out to new accounts, connect with them or follow them, if you comment on posts, commenting is one of the big things right now that sometimes can yield more results than the posts you actually make. The other day, I had a comment that I posted on somebody's post. That comment got more impressions than the post that I shared that day. So there's a really interesting set of opportunities that you have. You can actually really gain a lot of traction on LinkedIn by not even posting, just by participating in the conversation and really being meaningful in the way that you interact with people. So that's another part. And I'll be totally honest with you, I had no idea that was a thing. Like zero clue. When I started thinking I'll post on LinkedIn, I thought I will post on LinkedIn, like I will create content and post it for my business. And in the conversation with ChatGPT, it said, hey, you may want to consider also building part of your posting schedule as comment on 5 people's posts, or, follow 5 people a week or something like that. And I was like, really? This is incredible. Like it never would have crossed my mind that I don't have to be, filming in a fancy setup or writing tons of content, but it reveals different strategies. Because at the end of the day, I'm guessing that everyone here's top priority isn't to become a social media influencer. We're trying to move the needle in our business. That's what we're trying to do. I'm not posting on LinkedIn for kicks. I would like more people to join my coaching group. Full disclosure, that's why I'm posting what I'm posting. So if that's your goal, to build business, to build revenue through clients and things like that, there are more strategies than just posting. So those are things that get unearthed with this prompt, and they're built in the context of sustainability. That's the part that's key. If ChatGPT told me, hey, you should comment on 1,000 people's posts per day, I guess I'm going out of business. There's no way I'm pulling that off. So the sustainability portion, that this is how much I can contribute, really helped build a plan that I could actually operate. So the sustainability portion really is the driver of long-term success for you. And I know that sounds silly when we haven't talked about analysis yet, but really, I think analysis becomes more obvious once we've been creating. And so the last thing that I want to talk about here is how to evaluate your progress. Now, I don't know how this has felt to you. I don't know if this has felt really complex. My goal is to make it as simple as possible. And so my goal is to give you the prompts that are helpful or have been helpful for me and kind of walk through the thinking behind them. But I try to keep things as simple as possible, because I have found that's the type of that's the type of like tool that's helpful for me. It's like, it's simple stuff. If I have to do a ton of work to set up a complicated thing in my business, I'm probably not going to do it. So everything I design is designed for just speed and efficiency and ease of engagement. I approach evaluation the same way. So I actually only do I ask three questions. Over 90 days, you've posted content. That's what you've done over the 90-day window. I'm a big fan of doing this quarterly because it takes a lot of time for traction to build. So you've done this for 90 days. What has performed the best? That's it. That's the question to ask. And then what has performed the worst? It's super helpful to see the wins and the losses. You got to see both of them. And what we've done now is we've crafted a valley in a sense. So we see the wins and the losses, the peaks and the valleys. Now just look at them. How are they different? What's different about them? So as I was preparing for this, I did this. I pulled it up on LinkedIn. I had a post that went, did really well relative for really well, what that means for me. And then I had a bunch of posts that didn't perform so great. And what I was able to do is look at the difference between them. And so the way LinkedIn shows the analytics, it just shows you like the first line, essentially the hook, if you want to use social media language. But what was really interesting to me is that my top 3 had some visual attached to it. So that was interesting. And my bottom 3 ones, some of them had images, some didn't. But the nature of that first line of that hook was so cryptic. I was trying to combine, 4 different nuanced ideas into one sentence. And you hear a lot about hooks. If you spend any time in social media, people will try to sell you a playbook of whatever, all these kits that automatically somehow make you a great copywriter. They have not helped me over the years. Just me sitting down and thinking has helped me more than anything. But I realized I'm falling into the trap of trying to get too clever in these things. And the ones that were very clear, those were the ones that tended to perform better. And so I found that this was actually a really helpful set of questions to ask for me in my own analysis. So what are the things I'm doing that are performing the best? What are the things that are performing the worst? What's the difference? Now, obviously, lean towards replicating the things that are working for you, because that means your audience is hearing you. That means that your audience is somewhat interested in what you have to say. That's a sign that it's working. Whenever you jump into some sort of a program or a framework or a whatever, some playbook, they're going to be giving you very generalized advice. What I have found, even recently, a month ago, I joined a program. It's a group on LinkedIn focusing on helping your content get better. My impressions have plummeted, like fallen through the floor. It has been a catastrophic failure for my reach on LinkedIn. And so I've stepped back and I've asked the question, why? Does it mean that I'm not providing a valuable service? Does it mean that I'm terrible at writing? Does it mean I should close the doors of my business? Of course not. It's none of those things. It means that I'm still a human being working with human beings, trying to reach human beings. And the group philosophy was very much driven off of one person or one type of post or one type of personality. I'm not that guy. And the reality is my audience is not that either. So there's a real value in you understanding who you are, understanding the people you're trying to reach, and then doing it. And then saying, what are the things that are working? What are the things that are not? So analysis for me and evaluation for me is very straightforward and very simple. And it just comes down to, what are the things that are resonating with my audience? What are the things that they care about? So there you go. So those are the 5 things that I found to be particularly helpful about building a sustainable and long-lasting approach to social media. You're going to drift. You'll go, you'll have some success and you'll think, well, I got to do more. You'll have some big losses and you'll think, oh, maybe I should never do this again. Stay steady, keep going. And you can go through these prompts, every quarter, every 6 months, however often you want, but you can continue to reevaluate and refine. And that will help you continue to move forward when it comes to communicating on social media for your business. All right. So I think, Stephanie, you want to talk about a couple things, or do you want me to share about these things? And then, in the meantime, think about questions, anything that wasn't clear, anything that you wildly passionately disagree with, go ahead. I could take it, but thank you, Hillary. You're kind. I appreciate that. Okay. And then I want to talk a little bit about, so I appreciate Novo very much. When I was first starting in my business, I was looking for something that wasn't just a place to store money. I needed tools and I needed systems to help me in that area. I've mentioned before, I'm a creative. Oh boy, creatives and money, we're not best friends. I mean, we like money. Don't get me wrong. You're welcome to send me checks, no problem. But managing money shifts us into the analytical type of things, and it's just not most creatives' strong suit. And so I was looking for something that was a little bit more rich than just here's a bucket for money. And when I came across Novo, I was super impressed with all the different things that they give. For me as a creative, I care about aesthetics, but I also don't want to re-engineer every invoice every time. And as I leaned into what Novo provided, they gave me a phenomenal solution where I can put my logo on it. I can customize my colors if I want to, but it really made a professional appearance. Like it helped me in the way that I'm presenting my business to my clients. And so that for me was a huge win. And so when we're talking through these different things, like there's certain features that come to mind is like, wow, this is really valuable for me about Novo. And this is it. This is a big one for me, is customizing invoices. The other thing that I love talking about, having your own business, and this is particularly sensitive for me as a freelancer. When you go from W-2 to it's all up to you, the paychecks look really, really nice. The problem is that not all of that money is yours. And so you have to acknowledge that there is another layer of complexity that's happening that you now manage. That is absolutely a part of making the jump to freelance, running your own business. And so for me, the Novo reserves are incredible because I just set up a percentage that I wanted to take out of each payment that comes into my account, and it does it. And then tax time comes around and the CPA is like, you're in big trouble. I'm like, but I'm not, because Novo reserves. No, that's not how the conversation always goes. It could though, I guess. If Stephanie, if you ever need a commercial spot, there you go. That's the script for it. But essentially what it does is it prepares me for these decisions that I have to make. And we all have to make it. You know what I mean? We all have to navigate this in some level. And so the automation of this it's been incredible because I don't have to think about it. I don't have to do that additional task every time. Payment comes in, it's split to wherever it needs to go. And then if I don't have enough in the account, that's my fault. That's not a reserves issue, but it protects me in all of those ways. So those are the two things that I love about Novo, specifically for freelancers, is that ability to invoice and the ability for it to help you manage the money that will have to go to taxes or any other things that you're saving for. In some cases, saving for a piece of equipment. Great. Set aside a percentage of every piece of, every revenue that comes in and say, this is my camera fund, or this is my computer replacement fund, or whatever it is. So a lot of good things that you can do with that. All right. Anything that you want to add, Stephanie, or you want to jump to Q&A?
Let's go ahead and jump to Q&A. I also did share everything here except for your email address. So if y'all look to the chat, the pinned comment up there has the links to YouTube, LinkedIn, and the website for Jump to Freelance. And then I know we have at least one question already posed in the chat here.
Okay. Oops. Making sure I spelled that right. Jump to Freelance. Yeah. So there's the email address.
Fantastic.
As well. So yeah, and one thing that, just so you guys hear, I'm happy to provide all of these different prompts as text. So I'll create a PDF of it. So if you want to copy that, feel free to just email me. I don't know if there's a way to attach that somewhere, Stephanie, or is email the best way to
Yes.
that?
I think email is the best way. I would just say, go ahead and let's get that PDF
perfect
to send out, and then we'll have like your links on there too. So it can be more of a follow-up piece.
Okay, great. Perfect.
Oh, Hillary's already on it. Yeah.
Oh, wow. All right. Look at that. Perfect. Love it. Okay. So let me see here. Aside from
Jotan had a question.
Where was this one?
It is, he said, great explanation and run through. which
Yeah,
I
yeah.
agree. And then aside from the relatively new support from AI, how
Yeah,
have you seen this process change over the lifespan of social media? And
yeah.
how do you think it will or won't change in the future?
Yeah, that's a great question. So this has absolutely evolved over time. So in the beginning, I call this the golden age of social media. I only say that because I was an employee trying to manage a Facebook page. In the old days, when you posted something on Facebook, the audience that was connected to you, they would see that content. And so your focus as a content creator was 100% on your audience. Today, it is almost the opposite of that. There are times for me where I see a creator, let's say on Instagram, owned by the same company, by Meta. So similar philosophies. On Instagram, I see a creator, I'm like, man, their content is hilarious or really engaging. It's inspirational to me. I love it. I'm going to follow. That actually sometimes makes it harder for me to see their content because Instagram is really focused on now growing audiences or exposing people to more content. They just want to keep you on the platform longer. So there's so much content that now our focus is actually on complete strangers. The advantage to this in a lot of cases is that that means that if we've built a following of 200 people, our posts aren't limited to that 200 people. So there's a huge advantage in the discovery side. And that's where the audience part really becomes a shift. So in the old days, it was who are the people that are already connected to me? Today, it's who is the audience that I'm trying to reach? Now, the beauty of that is it does overlap with your current audience, theoretically. You know, if I'm reaching creatives wanting to make the jump to freelance, then my content will be applicable to any creatives wanting to make the jump to freelance already following me. But then also there's a chance that that could get exposed to an audience outside of my specific place. For some organizations, this has been a massive benefit. For me, trying to build a business, trying to build connections, trying to find people that are interested in coaching, like phenomenal, helpful, great. Years ago, I worked on staff at a church, which was a single place where people came to that's regionally bound. So you're stuck. So if you're like, wow, that looks like a really interesting place in Southern California, but you live in, Michigan, sorry, no help to you. So this shift has actually made it more complicated for organizations like that have a very singularly located presence and are kind of regionally bound. So all that to say, the concepts have shifted in terms of who it is that you're talking to, because you have to recognize you're throwing content into somebody's feed, and who is that person? Like, we don't know, we don't get to choose it as the content creator side, but we do get to choose it in the sense that I'm going to make content that I think is super helpful for creatives wanting to make the jump to freelance. And then the algorithm's job is to say, okay, who's that? How is this responded to by the people that are, connected to this person or seeing this content? So we're creating content now for an ideal audience in a way that before we were creating it for our audience. So I hope that's a helpful kind of breakdown. And from what I gather, just looking at the trends and the movements of things, I believe that this will only become more of the strategy in the future in terms of content creation because it's tied to the volume of content. There is too much content. There's no way for us to navigate the volume of content that's being created. And so we have to leverage, or companies have to leverage an algorithm to distribute it appropriately. So yes, we are at the mercy of the algorithm, but it's not our enemy as much as it is the distribution channel to get to the right people. So as we're constantly refining our message, constantly creating content around a focused audience, that increases the chances that our content, as it improves, of course, but like our content will reach the people who are looking for the specific thing that we're doing. So yeah, I think that shift is long-term. Jared, yeah, it's a good question about a comprehensive prompt. One of the things that I have found is that, this is a silly way to say it, I guess. I am AI's throttle. And I kind of mean that both ways. Both, I want to make sure that AI is not doing too much work without me kind of speaking into it. But also, there's only so much that I can handle and process really in any given day. So what I like to do is I like to create prompts that force my participation, but also limit how much I'm trying to negotiate at once. One of the things that really has struck me, so As I was digging into kind of the AI stuff, so I wrote a book it was about, I guess actually about a year ago now. Very, very narrow and focused niche. But I'm working with a group of people and I want to help them get better at things. And so I uploaded the manuscript to ChatGPT and I said, all right, this is going to be helpful for me to mine some of my own ideas. It's basically a search tool is what I was thinking. So I'm writing something. I'm like, oh, you know what? There was a story that I think actually be really helpful. And so I said, okay, ChatGPT, here's the manuscript. Tell me about this story when I was working with a younger designer. And I mentioned that they need to, focus on this idea or whatever. And then tell me any other stories that happen in this chapter. And it came back and it's like, yeah, you use an analogy about ice cream scoops and it was really compelling and like it really helped the designer. And I was like, it gave me a story that I didn't actually share. And so I was very concerned by that because it's basically creating, like if I had just moved forward with that, I would have assumed something that wasn't actually a piece of what I had talked about. And so for me, I like building prompts with natural breaks in them so that I am brought back into the process, but also so I have a limited amount of information that I need to validate before moving on to the next piece. So for me, the prompts are not holistic intentionally because I found that it's beneficial for me to move in a phased way. So I think that's a piece of even, it's a little bit more of an AI conversation, but as you're engaging with AI, I think that everyone will develop a different kind of rhythm that is beneficial for them. But I like having something. Yeah, exactly. Thought partnership, 100%.
Yeah, I think that
So
makes a
for
lot of
me,
sense.
yeah, I like the ability to kind of riff with it and be like, ooh, I don't like that idea. Steer clear of that analogy, or that's not. I don't agree with you, frankly. We'll get into not arguments. I don't be nice to the robots just in case, But yeah, I think I saw you mentioned that earlier. Always be positive and nice and kind and thank yous to the to the robot. So, hey,
Oh no, I
just in
was saying
case.
I was saying the opposite of that
Oh,
actually. It's a waste of the processing power since they're
oh yeah,
since
yeah,
they're
that's fair. Yeah.
LLMs.
Yep. Yeah. I do it because I have found that the responses that I get are more in line with the tone of voice that I want in my business. And so for me, I try to talk that way as I input. And so then it tends to yield a response that's in line with that. When I'm a little bit more direct or even a little bit more stern, it tends to be stern back, even in the
Yeah, because they will
responses I get. But
they'll mirror whatever we put in.
yeah, exactly. Yep. So that's good. Anything else? Any other questions that come up? I don't think okay, that was Jared's. Yeah, I think that's good. Okay, great. Perfect. Well, yeah, subscribe to the email list. I will if you shoot me an email, I'll work on that today and I'll get those to you shortly, by the end of the day today. I'll have that document, but with all the prompts. But again, feel free to explore with this. I want to make sure that the heartbeat for me is that social media is an opportunity for you to express the heart behind your business. And your heart can be ruthless efficiency. Your heart can be, we have to stop this problem in life. Your heart can be, look, you can do anything you believe in. Like there's so many different ways that you can express the heartbeat of your business. But that's what social media is. It's an opportunity for us to be that, to be sharing the purpose, the mission, the values, the character, the tone of voice, all of that stuff expresses itself as we're on social media. And so as you then lean into these prompts and develop this content, it's going to be really helpful for you to make sure that you're protecting that, in the content. And sometimes that means, adjusting a prompt or whatever. So the best place, Jared, for me is M. Curtis. I think it might be. Yeah, there you go. Perfect. Yeah, LinkedIn is where I do most posting. YouTube is I've been creating content specifically, like kind of like micro content for me, at least. It's not a 30-minute session. It's a 5-minute video towards some of these practices. But yeah, those are good places. I'm on Instagram as at Jump to Freelance. I just don't post there, so you're welcome to connect with me there. But I don't. That's not been an intentional development place for me for content.
And then I just wanted to ask, I wanted to ask you, Matt, to just tell us a little bit about the premise for the next event. It's going to be how to talk money with clients.
Yep.
Not making it weird. So I put the link to register here. But yeah.
So there's two coming up. So there's the one, how to talk money without making it weird, how to talk money with clients. The real kind of fundamental principle of this is that money conversations are super complicated. Culturally, they've been made complicated. And that shows up when we're at the negotiation table, when we're working with a potential client. They see the number, and then all of a sudden it becomes really complex. And so there's a lot of things that we can do on our end in preparation for that conversation that actually makes it a very low stress and positive and open conversation. And so I have found it to be very helpful because I have felt the stress in that conversation. I was pitching a client a project, and they're like, wow, that's a lot of money. Why should we pay this? And I just remember thinking, okay, okay, I've done enough work ahead of this so that I know how to answer this question. But I just think seeing that deconstructed a little bit is really helpful. It's been helpful for me. So yeah. And then the other one is a little bit more AI focused. And it really is digging in deeper into the role of AI as a thought partner and how it can actually be a business partner for you in getting some reps in your business. As a creative, there's a firm belief that I hold. The two ways to get better in life, I think this is true of creativity, but I've seen it actually spill out beyond that. Repetition, volume of work. The more you get to practice an activity, the better you'll get at it. And then second, meaningful critique. Feedback is so helpful for getting better at stuff. And if you go through your life and you avoid feedback, it's going to be hard for you. And if you go through your life not getting a lot of reps, it's going to be hard for you. And so we can actually leverage AI, not exclusively, I think, but as kind of like a microwave, a microwave agent to help us get a lot of reps and to see some blind spots. As I was testing this part of my own business out, I actually pushed it pretty hard and I gave it an answer that was way over the top, I thought, remarkably helpful. And it came back to me and it said, here's some opportunities that you have to improve this. And I was like, oh my goodness. Okay. So it's just really helpful for us to call out some of the blind spots that we may have in our own business as we're building it. So yeah, so that's what the other one is, building a better, leveraging AI to build a better business. It really is kind of that thought partner approach. It's not like, here's how to connect ChatGPT to your email so that it, orders flowers on anniversary. Like, it's not an automation type of thing. It's very much, how does it partner with us in our thinking and helping us get better in managing or executing, the business that we do.
We recently also launched our networking sessions. So we've done that in the past on platforms like Alignable, but we're also going to do that here. So please do sign up for those. If you, as Jared was saying, would like to connect with other business owners, that is the goal for that. We've gotten a little taste of that here and there in our chats and our engagement in the spaces, but I'm really excited to just gather folks and have a little bit of organized interaction. So please be sure to show up and at your availability, whether it's for education or for connection.